tempo per la parola finale. It's time for the final word. It's a good match day to do it. Feeling good. Still buzzing, to be honest. Now let us know how you're feeling. How you're coming down from that really big high of the 2-0 win in the Derby d'Italia. Those 3 points mean more than just, those 3 punti in the Classifica. They mean a lot. They mean a lot. And you can tell that the spirits are high. But, it's important to remember that in context, we've got another game coming up against Udinese. And each game is just as big, if not bigger, than the previous one, irrespective of who your opponent is on the day. So let's just go through the results as we usually do. Match day 18, all done and dusted, bar 1 or 2 fixtures for a couple of teams that have a game in hand. But we'll start with a couple of the smaller games and results. Bologna were able to defeat Verona 1-0. Orsolini had a penalty on 20 minutes. Bologna have started to find their form just a little bit, as they usually would under Mihailovic around this time this season. This is where they start to usually pick up their cluster of points that usually keeps them afloat. And, I thought that Verona would have actually come to play a little bit harder than that. Verona are 2 wins in 5 now, so they don't really have the form that they were in the start of the season, where, they weren't losing many games, not conceding as many goals. They've started to show their colours there. And Bologna have got 20 points as well, their first win in 5 games, which means that they're up in 12th position. So Bologna doing enough to make sure that they look like they're going to spend another year in top flight next season. So good for them. One result that was interesting was Sampdoria got 3 more points against Udinese. A couple of players in our interest there. Rodrigo De Paul opened the scoring once again. He is Udinese's best player, and he will be leaving at the end of the season. And I'd still like to see him in an Inter jersey. Let us know in the comments below if you are a Rodrigo De Paul fan and you still want him in the side. But what happens next is about as textbook as it gets under a Pazza coach like Ranieri, and then you throw in a Antonio Candreva penalty into the mix. And Ernesto Torregrossa, who was just bought from Serie B club Brescia to add a little bit more firepower, he scores with 9 minutes to go as well. And Sampdoria take the 3 points, which really, really helps them. Well done to them after, a bad start to the season. They've clawed their way up to 10th position. 23 points, and Antonio Candreva has been a good signing for them. He's actually been heavily involved. He's matching his performances for Samp in the same efforts that he was putting in for us, but they're showing in a greater sense in a more minnow side like Sampdoria. So all the best to him. I hope he does very, very well. Actually, to be honest, coincidentally enough, he's the name on the back of this jersey that I'm wearing right now. Not the proudest jersey, but not a complete write-off like some other jerseys as well. Next game. Oh my God, Fiorentina suck ass. I've been saying all season they suck ass. I feel like I'm repeating myself every final word. Same teams that suck big time and aren't showing any signs of progression. And, those teams for me are like Genoa and Fiorentina. But Fiorentina, to ship 6 goals to Napoli like that is just nothing short of disgusting. Insigne gets a double. Deme, Lozano, Zielinski, and Politano out. Boy grabs a goal as well. They're looking impressive though. Napoli, if we can focus on them for a second, they've got, I'm recording this the night before they play Juventus in the Supercoppa. I think they're going to win the Supercoppa. You can't quote me on that, but Juventus looks shook, and we'll get to them in a sec because, yeah, that's the big fixture that we'll focus on here, obviously. But, yeah, Napoli, overly impressive, to be honest. Overly impressive. They've got 40 goals this season, 16 goals against, which is the least in the league. They've shipped the least amount of goals in the league. They've got the best goal difference now on 24 goals. They've got 34 points, 7 off the top, 6 behind us. Sorry, not saying 9 off the top, 6 behind us, but with a game in hand as well against, Juventus. So it's getting tied up there for Napoli. They'll be around. In terms of predictions at the start of the season, I said that I didn't say Roma would make top 4. If I'm remembering correctly, I still said Lazio would come 3rd. And I keep forgetting whether it was Napoli or Milan that I had in that 4th position. But either way, I think it'll be either Napoli or Milan. Napoli or Lazio that even gets that position, to be honest. But anything can happen. It'll change, because let's go over to that derby now. The eternal derby in the eternal city. Roma had good form. But Fonseca is a little bit of a stubborn manager. He rarely really switches from his formation and his choices. And, you know, this game was crying out for a little bit more versatility and a few changes, you know, but he goes in with his trusted 3-4-3 pretty much. Dzeko so much more elevated than Mkhitaryan and Pellegrini playing off his left and right hand side, but it just wasn't clicking for Roma on the day, whereas everything that Luis Alberto touched turned to absolute gold. Ciro Immobile opened the scoring, and it was a really, really bad mistake from, I think it was, what's his name? Eretz. Oh, it's going to do my head in. I'm going to have to look at Ibitsu. I'm going to have to look it up. Ibanez, that's the one, Ibanez. So Ibanez, and that was a shit mistake. Like, he just pretty much gave the ball away, and Roma gets Roma cuffs up a chance, and Lazio gets all 3 points. Lazio, that kind of team that's so unpredictable. It's like every season they're just going to drop points in games where you don't expect them to drop points. They like to drop points against small opposition. Lazio, they absolutely love to do that, and that's not going to change anytime soon, I don't think. A team that got 3 points in a smaller match was Crotone. They beat Benevento by 4-1, and you know, I only saw the highlights for this one. There are actually some pretty good goals. If you haven't seen the goals, go and check them out. But Benevento still sitting 11th on the table on 21 points. I still maintain my belief that they'll win enough games in order to stay up. They've scored an impressive 21 goals since they've been up. Actually, it's not that impressive, to be honest, but you know, Crotone on the other hand are last. So Benevento should have really looked at that as an opportunity to maybe get at least something out of poorer opponents. But then again, that's where Crotone would have looked at the game and said, guys, if we're going to get 3 points in order to elevate our run-in to save us from relegation, it might as well be against a team like Benevento that we know we can beat. And they had their number pretty much from the beginning of the match. 12 points altogether now for Crotone. Still going to be a big fight. As close as it is at the top and in the top 4 and top 6, it's equally as close down the bottom as well. Just think about how interesting it's going to be come the end of this Serie A season, when we do see the table and the fixtures that are remaining and how things can change up until the last match day. Even throughout the last match day, the table can still change, obviously. Where else are we going? Sassuolo 1, Parma 1. Sassuolo finally, well, not finally, it's been, they started the season quite strongly. We all knew they'd drop a little bit. They needed a 94th minute penalty in order to take anything from this game at all, as Parma had their number at 1-0 in the 34th minute. And now Sassuolo down to 8th in 30 competition points as well. So, you know, they'll hover around that position pretty much for the rest of the campaign. I got to give props to, goalless draws, Atalanta and Genoa, and Torino and Spezia. Spezia, though, had a really good game against Roma in the Coppa Italia this morning. Roma had 2 red cards there. But Spezia will have a lot of confidence after taking that point from Torino, because they have Roma again in the league coming up soon. I know that. And, you know, they're in 13th position. And they've had 2 wins and a draw in their last 5 matches. Spezia looking like they've gained a bit of momentum. And after watching them at the start of the season and thinking this team's good enough to stay in Serie A, I think they played better football than the likes of Genoa, who, you know, were lucky to hold Atalanta to a goalless draw. Atalanta weren't at the races in Bergamo this match day. Atalanta 6th with 32 competition points. As you can see, that cluster at the top of the ladder there, 32 for Atalanta, 33 for Juventus, 34 for Roma, 34 for Napoli. And then there's a little bit of the gap for the Milanese clubs. But yeah, Torino and Genoa, they're just going to be dogfighting, I think, till the end of the season. But they really should just be able to... Torino just sacked Gianpaolo as well. So they've just got a new manager back as well, which is absolutely insane. Belotti has to get out of there, man. Belotti has to get out of there. He's too good of a player to be playing in a club like that. Let us know below if you take Belotti as the vice Lukaku. Maybe if Conte can convince him that, you know, you're not going to start every game, but you'll get minutes. You'll get minutes a lot. I've been crying out for someone who can take some minutes off Romelu and I can still bank on. And he could be that guy. Definitely. Depends how much we want to spend in this sort of COVID climate, because Torino wouldn't be inclined to let him go for cheap, that's for sure. So Zlatan Ibrahimovic is an absolute beast. I'll just admit it. I didn't expect him to go on a ramp and score both goals against Cagliari. 12 penalties in 18 games for Milan. I'm not going to say it because I think they've deserved to win all these games. I'm not going to cry that they've been treated in like a beneficial sort of way, in an unfair way. But they have Atalanta this week. So if there is a time for them to drop points, it could come this week. And we've got Udinese, so we need to capitalize on this. We can't do a Sampdoria again. We can't do it. Anyway, Inter 2, Juventus 0. Who's still buzzing? I'm still buzzing. And when I look at the game a little bit more tactically, and if you haven't checked out our tactical analysis with Mo, go and check it out. It's pretty cool. We were just on him. Pirlo looked clueless. I didn't know if it was a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3 half the time. And yeah, or a 3-5-2 half the time as well, because he saw Chiellini shifting very, very much so into the wing directions in order to cover the wings half the time as well. It was just a mess. They pushed up in midfield in a very indirect sort of way. Midfielders all over the place. Rabiot out of space. Ramsey not playing back. They look sloppy, really sloppy as well. So as I look at the table at the moment and see Juventus in 5th, it's such a joyous occasion. But they've got a game in hand, and if they win that game in hand against Napoli, then it's nothing. They're only -4 with still 20 games remaining. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting what happens from here. We, on the other hand, those 3 points there, those are a big 3 points. We end up on 12 wins, 4 draws, 2 defeats so far this season. 45 goals scored, so we are still the highest goal scorers in the league. Kudos to us. We have shipped 23 goals against, which by looking at the ladder right now, I think that makes us about the 5th side in the league, 5th or 6th. So we could improve there, but we are improving. We are improving. What a game defensively for the likes of Skriniar, De Vrij, Bastoni, the best of the lot. Really good. Hakimi's defense is getting a lot better as well. And yeah, happy days. It's a happy final word and a happy close to this match day. And I'm really looking forward for today's Wednesday afternoon. We don't play Udinese, I don't think, till Sunday, my time, which is really, really nice for the guys to get a break, and how they will use that break really well, to train really well, to communicate really well. That's what it means. That's what it means to go and up in Europe, yeah? That's what it means to have more time to plan ahead. 5 days still to Udinese, and Juventus was a day and a half ago. So the team will have almost a week rest, and Conte will have these players drilled to the shithouse. I'm hoping for a big game against Udinese, like one of those 3-0, 4-0s. That would really keep the juices flowing as we hit the halfway point. Guys, remember the next game is the halfway point, even though we're already midway through January. The game against Udinese will be what crowns the real winter champions. Not that we care about that. None of us really care about that at all. Oh wait, I think Milan have already got it anyway, because they're 3 in front and they've got the head-to-head. But as I said, that's just a title for a headline, for a newspaper headline. So yeah, final word, done. Matchday 18, done. Ciao ragazzi, Forza Inter.